Welcome back, Veggie Channel viewers. Our Christmas menu adventure continues. Bettina, I'm going to show you this wonderful dish of seitan that really impressed my in-laws last year. It looks and tastes almost like meat. I hate to say it, but it's easy to do and you can prepare in advance.
That's nice for Christmas, right?
Yes.
So we don't actually spend the day in the Christmas when everyone is visiting.
That's right. And this will be a traditional roast, and I will show you how to do it. So this is seitan. It's made from gluten flour, and it's used as a meat substitute and contains 70% vegetable protein. And I get mine from a small little shop from a maker called Sun Soy Food. And they make tempeh, tofu, and seitan. They do a really good job. And so I'm going to show you how to slice this because this is too thick for a marinade. So a roast is basically going to be all the thin slices marinated in a delicious sauce, and then it's going to be rolled up.
Wonderful.
The technique is you're going to take the knife and hold it type of like this and point it down, because otherwise, if you make a mistake, you don't want it cutting up your hand. So this is another way. Once I make the first incision, I cut and I pull. I cut and I pull. So I can have really good control.
Wow. Your knife is really sharp though. Huh?
Yes, it's very, very sharp. Yeah. So then you take the next one. I cut. Once I get a grab, then I start peeling it back.
You make it look so easy. Is it really that easy?
If you have a sharp knife, yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have a sharp knife, then you'll be struggling with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's actually more dangerous to have a dull knife. Look how thin it comes out. Yeah. And we want to try to keep at least a few pieces that are whole, because then it makes it easier to roll.
I understand.
But it's okay if it doesn't come out perfectly whole, and you have some smaller pieces, you can just put them on the inside.
You done?
This one is already pre-flavored. Usually when they make seitan, they add a little bit of soy sauce and a little bit of salt, so keep that into consideration. If you use a non-flavored seitan, then obviously you need a little bit more flavoring.
Makes
a little
sense.
bit more salt, yeah. Okay, so what you got there, Bettina?
Well, I thought with your roasted seitan, it inspired me, and I thought, why don't we make some root vegetables? The oven will be on, so we will save energy as well. This way, the oven will be already warm. But rather than do just the typical roasted potatoes, why don't we put in some other vegetables? And I thought of the following. I found some root celery. We will have organic potatoes. Here I found a nice turnip. It turns sweet in the oven. And here we have a sweet potato. Butternut squash.
Butternut squash.
Okay. Then we have some Jerusalem artichokes.
Otherwise called tompinampur.
And just some regular carrots. So that's what I suggest.
And I'll get started on my marinade. So basically, the seitan will be marinated in a wine sauce. I don't drink alcohol, so I simmer down the red wine in low heat for about 45 minutes, and that gets reduced down to 2/3 of its original size. So I'm going to get started on the sauce, which is a universal marinade. It's made from a lot of fresh herbs. So I have some bay leaf, and I have some parsley, rosemary. These are all organic, grown in the garden. So I have some thyme, some sage. There's also 3 cloves of garlic that I'm going to mince fine, and 2 scallions. This is a big, humongous scallion, so that's enough. For the garlic, I can just smash it like this. That's much easier than peeling the whole skin. There's another way of cutting herbs. I roll them up so they're just easily controlled. Fresh herbs have an advantage because they contain essential oils that are oftentimes antibacterial and
fungal, no, as well.
Antifungal, antiviral. So it's not only delicious, it's also better for health.
Wonderful. Okay, so I did get some garlic.
Oh, great.
So you see, I'll just put them like that, and I put them whole into my now cut up vegetables. Now, can I have a handful of your herbs?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll just take a little bit. Let's take some oil, and then I will put some salt. Toss it all, and it's ready to go in the oven. I'll do that, okay? I'll let you go on.
Great. And I'll get started on the marinade. The herbs have already been chopped. I'm going to now add the liquid ingredient. This is non-alcoholic wine, so half a cup. This is soy sauce. So then we're going to add balsamic vinegar, 3 tablespoons, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. So then this becomes the marinade. And the wine gives it the redness, and it gives the seitan a tinge of redness. Makes it resemble a lot like meat when it's done, so it fools a lot of meat eaters. So I'm going to take the thinly sliced seitan, and I'm going to put this in the marinade. Oh, I forgot a little bit of just a drizzle of olive oil. The olive oil tenderizes the seitan, because seitan itself has no fat. So you need a little bit of tenderizer. It's not like meat where it already has the marbling. I'd say let it marinate overnight, and then it takes a nice red color. So we'll let that marinate for a little bit. I'll add the rest of the seitan in.
See, tell me if it's too late, if I started thinking about what I was going to cook too late and I don't have time to marinate it all night long. What shall I do? Okay,
so what you can do is you can heat up the marinade on the stove. Bring it to a small simmer. You don't want to bring it to a boil because then it evaporates, it gets really salty. And then while the marinade is hot, you can put in the seitan, and that will speed up the absorption process.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that you can save good 4 or 5 hours that way.
Wonderful.
So we've made the marinade. They're finished marinating overnight. And so this is what they look like. They take on this really yearly red color from the red wine. So I'm going to start rolling them. Bettina, can you give me some of the bigger pieces?
Okay, that will work, right?
Okay, yeah, that works.
Why do you need the big pieces?
Well, because then the bigger the pieces, the easier it is to roll. If they're small pieces, then they break up and it's not as pretty.
Is that okay?
Give me a bigger piece. Yeah, that's perfect. And so I lay the foundation. I want to drain them, but not so dry, so it keeps the roast moist. And so depending on how many people you're making it for, usually 100 grams is a good number, up to 150 grams, just because it's the holidays. This one we're doing 1.5 kilos, so that's for a good 8 to 10 people. Actually, if it's not for the holidays, you can also put this in the oven just layered like this. You don't have to roll them. That's another option.
Okay, yeah. That's nice.
Or if you really don't have time, you can also pan fry them with a little bit of oil. The consistency is a little bit different. It's not as tender. It's a little bit crispier, just a little bit, but it's really good all the same. So I'm going to start rolling. Now you can do it in different ways. I'm going to try to roll them by hand. And so you take your fingers and you just try to keep it as tight as possible. And I'm going to use the oven paper to guide me. And it's good to do it in a casserole pan or a baking pan, so the juices don't fall all over the place. And I'm actually going to take this paper and I'm going to wrap around it. That will keep it tender. And then afterwards we just take it out. We just take it out before we serve it. So I want to keep it kind of snug. Okay, so we have something that looks like this. It's going to go in the oven at 200 degrees. If you don't have time, you can put it on broil. Otherwise, and do it for about 15-20 minutes. Afterwards, you take the paper out and you let it crisp a little bit on the edges. Otherwise, you put it in the oven, 180 degrees, bake it, just with the paper on, and then last 10 minutes, tear it off and then put it on the grill.
Okay, let me go check on the potatoes and other root vegetables.
Wonderful.
So they're all roasted. They got yummy.
Look at the garlic.
Yeah, it shows, huh? Nice.
Okay.
So that will go together really well.
We'll serve the seitan roast along with the root vegetables. And then later on, I'm going to take the leftover marinade and thicken it with a slurry. Then we're going to use that as a gravy over the roast. Okay. I'm going to put this in the oven now. Okay, so now our roast has came out of the oven half an hour ago.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I have brushed a little bit of oil on top of the seitan to keep it moist and also to give it a nice gloss. So now I'm going to remove the cord. So you see that it held pretty well. I mean, obviously it does. There's nothing holding it except the sheer compression from during baking. So we'll still have to be very careful about cutting it. And usually I discard the ends because they're usually drier.
So remind me, how long did it stay in the oven?
Well, this stayed in the oven about 20 minutes. The last 10 minutes can be, you take the paper off, the oven paper off, and you let it bake openly, adding a little bit of oil.
Okay.
You don't want to bake naked from the beginning because it will dry out. Because the seitan itself has no fat, so it will dry out easily. So you keep it covered, baked, and that will tenderize the seitan. Then you remove it to get this nice golden hue.
This looks great. This very festive this way.
Very, very pretty. Then you can garnish it with fresh herbs, whatever the herbs that you've had, or you can plate it also with the roasted vegetables that we made earlier. This is the marinade that we had to marinate the seitan with. And so what I did was I put it in a pot, bring it to a slow boil, and add a little bit of cornstarch slurry, which is basically cornstarch with some water, maybe about 2 teaspoons, something like that, depending on how much marinade you have, to create a nice thick sauce. And if it's a little salty, you can add water to it. You don't want it to be overly tasty. With all its herbs inside.
Yeah, it kind of looks chunky.
Yeah, it's chunky because of all the herbs and the garlic and everything, all the goodness. And remember, you can serve this many different ways. You can serve it, this is obviously the more traditional roast way, or you can simply take the pieces and you can put them in a frying pan and with the marinade and cook it for about 4 or 5 minutes until it boils. And
so that would take less time, right?
It takes much less time. Yeah, this is to impress the family.
And the guests.
And the guests, yes.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing this beautiful recipe.
It's a pleasure. You let me know how it comes out, okay?
Okay, I will.
All right. So thank you so much for being with us on another episode of Cooking Show with Nancy and Bettina on Veggie Channel. We'll see you next time.